What's up guys, LeopoldTheBrave here, and I'm finally making another death battle video. I meant for this to come out a bit sooner, but then I got sick and blah blah blah, what are you gonna do? But death battle. I think we can all agree our favorite part of the show are the incredible fight scenes, where the research comes to a climax, bounces back and forth in our head until we can come to a conclusion by the end. But whether the result is a super obvious stomp for one fighter, or comes down to the wire where only the finest details matter, the fight scene will always do its best to make things exciting. And one of my favorite tactics these fight scenes use to keep things interesting is through epic comebacks. You know, where one fighter gets tossed around most of the match or even has their own fake-out death, but then comes back with their trump card and curb stomps their opponent. It always gives me flashbacks to the final battle of Avatar, where Ozai is just knocking Aang around until he goes into the Avatar state, and then Ozai just gets bullied the rest of the fight. It's great, so I figured since I like these little segments so much, why not count down my top 10 favorites? I do have some rules and specifics to go over though to explain my choices on the list. Rule number 1. Once the comeback begins, the loser can't get any hits on the winner. Otherwise it's not a comeback, it's just another part of the fight. Take Snake vs Sam Fisher for example. While that's one of my favorite climaxes in Death Battle, Snake surviving his fake-out death where it looked like Sam shot him through the wall isn't really a comeback because Sam still gets some really good hits on him during the knife fight. Even after Snake's comeback, he and Sam were still pretty even to the bitter end. And number 2, a character simply gaining the upper hand towards the end of the fight isn't a comeback. For example, the original Mario vs Sonic. Sonic may have had to deal with a bunch of Mario's power-ups, but he was never getting bullied throughout the fight. Even when Mega Mario was able to handle Super Sonic, it never pushed Sonic to extreme danger or put him to a state of near death. Sonic just had to flee until he got his chance. Comebacks are usually defined by following fake-out deaths, or by a character getting bullied to the point where it seems like they have no chance. So with that said, let's count down my top 10 favorite death battle comebacks. Number 10, The Joker in Joker vs Sweet Tooth. Now this comeback isn't anything visually interesting, but thematically it just works way too well. Despite me being a PlayStation guy, I don't know too much about Twisted Metal, and I've heard Sweet Tooth wouldn't actually fall for something like this, but it's definitely something Joker would try. And in a battle where Joker is the winner, how else do you expect him to finish things off? I mean, he could have had a stomp victory, avoiding his getting impaled fake out, and then just doing something goofy and gory to Sweet Tooth. That'd be in character for Joker too, but like he says, the best kind of punchline is the one you don't see coming. And in a show called Death Battle, who could predict that one of the deaths would be laughing yourself out? It may not be flashy, it may not be gory, it may not be grand, but this comeback just feels right. Speaking of things that would make the Joker laugh, comeback number 9 is SpiderMan in SpiderMan vs Batman. In one of the earliest death battles, one of the most brutal deaths follows possibly our first example of a proper comeback. Throughout the entire fight, we just see Spider-Man getting dominated by Batman's skills and different weapons. I mean, Spidey does get a hit in every now and then and even pulls Batman out of the dark thanks to his Spidey sense, but ultimately it appears as though he doesn't even stand a chance as Batman slams him into a car, explodes the car, and then tases him during what appears to be a last-ditch effort to just survive. It's at this point where Spider-Man decides to put his snark aside and just get serious and finish things. And finish things he does. As one of the earliest death battles, it's obviously not very cinematic or flashy, but it's iconic for just how brutal it was. And considering how Spider-Man was getting treated the rest of the fight, none of us saw this coming. Number 8 is Hercules in Hercules vs Dan Hibiki. Both of these characters are incredible screw-ups, and we knew the winner would be determined by who could manage to keep things together at the most crucial moment. And whether it be from throwing Android 16's head to Gohan, or befriending Majin Buu, we knew that person was gonna be Hercules. He just had to overcome his fear of Dan's Psycho style, and survive getting tossed around by his accidents the entire fight, and he'd be okay. Thankfully, that's exactly what happened. After learning Dan's martial arts and projectiles had zero effect on him, and tanking getting slammed around in a jetpack flight, Hercule knew he could come back from anything when Dan screwed up his finishing blow. He picked Dan up by his gi, got a few good and well-deserved hits in, and had his kill stolen by another accident. I can't think of a better comeback for the World Martial Arts Champion. Number 7 is the Shredder in Shredder vs Silver Samurai. This is a comeback in its purest form. In death battles between characters with transformations, usually it boils down to a game of chicken. Sometimes, on very rare occasions, the one who transforms first is able to come out on top, but more often than not, it's patience that gets rewarded. And in fights like this, where only one of the characters has a transformation, Patience is rewarded heavily, as it's not a matter of if Shredder will make a comeback, but when. Throughout the fight, it appears as Shredder picked a battle he couldn't win. He talked a big game, but had his sword combat matched, he got chased down, his fast sword swings blocked, his cool cape cut to ribbons, and he even got stabbed. But all he had to do was change into Super Shredder and victory was in his hands. A very brutal victory. I mean, Silver Samurai deflected Super Shredder's lightning, so that was pretty cool, but only really delaying the inevitable. Number 6 is TJ Combo and Balrog vs TJ Combo. This, of all episodes, doesn't really need an explanation for why it's on the list. The only explaining that needs to be done is for why it isn't higher. It mostly just comes down to how basic it is, like Shredder vs Silver Samurai. It's very obvious that TJ is the hero in this situation because Balrog is a cheater and he punches the referee. TJ has that heroic fake out and then comeback, and then uses his power up and wins. There's nothing wrong with sticking to the basics though. Despite a lot of other death battles playing out the same way, it still is the one that does it the best. I just think that despite the fact that it's great, it still didn't quite live up to the rewatch. It's heavily carried by the incredible song choice, and some aspects of the animation are a bit outdated, like Balrog's hilariously stupid blank face when he's being punched to death. It's still an absolutely fantastic episode and a thrilling comeback, doing everything it could with the tools it had. I just wish it had better tools. Number 5 is Wargreymon in Pokemon vs Digimon. Now this is what I mean by having better tools. While it may be an extremely similar scene to TJ vs Balrog with one fighter clearly being the villain in the situation, with Red being the instigator of the fight, and then them playing chicken with their transformations, it had some extra stuff to help level it up. The flashiness and larger scale of the battle was one thing, but it was also a 2v2. Not to mention the extra tension of the trainers shouting commands and strategies at their monsters. Plus, in the animation at least, the transformations didn't play a deciding factor, as the comeback began when Tai decided to throw down. Everyone's jaw dropped when Tai decked Red in the face and knocked him on his butt. And without Red to tell him what to do, Charizard had no idea how to continue, allowing Wargreymon to kick off one of the most brutal finishes in death battle history. Number 4 is Beerus in Beerus vs Sailor Galaxia. Apologies for the lower quality version for this segment, but I had to get a fight-only version of the episode because the episode itself is currently taken down at the time of recording. I mean, the footage is covered in anti-copyright filters anyways, but I figured I'd explain. Anyways, this comeback is the best example of escaping getting bullied for the entire episode. Beerus started out just being innocent and enjoying his dessert, only 2 of his several hundred projectiles actually hit, he never gets to finish a combo, he gets wrangled multiple times, Ultra Instinct doesn't even work. And everything else he tries to throw out either gets countered or neutralized by something Galaxia has. But just as all hope seems lost, Beerus takes control of his own Starseed, delivers one of the best lines ever, and then turns things around. It's like the more polished and modern day version of Batman vs Spider-Man. You gotta stand up to your bullies. Number 3 is ObiWan in Obi-Wan Kenobi vs Kakashi. If Beerus vs Sailor Galaxia is the more modern and polished version of Batman vs Spider-Man, then this is the 3D version. Now don't get me wrong, at first glance it does appear that Kakashi is putting up a much better fight throughout the duration of the battle than Spider-Man or Beerus. But if you keep Kakashi's trickery and knack for illusions in mind, you start to wonder how much of the real Kakashi Obi-Wan is actually hitting. He gets a few good blows in, but most of the time Obi-Wan is dealing with Kakashi's ninja shenanigans, his genjutsu, and his shadow clones. Even what appears to be a finishing blow on Kakashi turns out to be yet another substitution. Obi-Wan is electrocuted, narrowly escapes Kamui, and is forced to completely trust in the Force to escape. Despite how even they seemed in this fight, all of this combines to make you feel like Obi-Wan only made that comeback and survived by a thread. And the incredible music just adds to that mood. Great comeback. Number 2 is Iron Man in Iron Man vs Lex Luthor. Well, we talked about our 3D Batman vs Spider-Man, now it's time for our 3D Shredder vs Silver Samurai. Another battle where only one fighter had a transformation or a power-up. 'Twas never a matter of if, only when. Lex was able to handle Tony Hawk's basic suit pretty... Did I say Tony Hawk? Lex was able to handle Tony Hawk's Starks! Lex was able to handle Iron Man's basic suit pretty well, and even take some hits from the Hulkbuster, eventually powering it down. Victory was believed to be his after the powerful blast from the satellite cannon, but little did he know that Tony, just gonna leave it at Tony, had an extra trick up his sleeve in the form of that freaky alien suit. And from here on out, Lex never stood a chance as Tony delivers one of the most epic and cinematic comebacks in death battle history. The music blares, he says those iconic lines that Befried has gushed about enough already, and puts Lex down for good with possibly the best vaporization death in the series. Take note that I said possibly. I like Pokemon vs. Digimons a bit more, but that's more incineration than vaporization. And the number 1 best death battle comeback is Might Guy in All Might vs. Might Guy. It's yet another death battle where only one fighter has a transformation or power-up, but this one has a twist. Might Guy's strongest transformation, the 8th Gate of Death, can't be used without dying. So it sorta gives off the impression that the 8th Gate isn't going to show up unless Might Guy is gonna lose the fight. And it certainly seems that way at first glance. All Might completely impales Might Guy with the United States of Smash, and he still has the ability to go beyond Plus Ultra. Is the 8th Gate really gonna be enough? We get an entire minute to soak this scene up as the best part of possibly the best death battle track begins. The incredible music, the cel-shaded art style, the exciting fight up to this point, that final dash towards each other that keeps us on the edge of our seat, that incredible close-up shot, and then finally it lands. The finishing blow. The winner is Might Guy. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. What are your top 10 death battle comebacks, and what do you think of my picks? And which death battle topic should I discuss next? I'll be sure to read all the comments later. See you next time. LeopoldTheBrave, out.